Nesrin and Rehman have made of that selection of fairly heavyweight stories. We've gone straight for the Sunday Express and Vanessa Feltz and her revelation, if that's the word, of her assault by Rolf Harris while they were broadcasting on television. It's just extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, I think this is going to lead to even more objection to Rolf Harris's sentence, which people think is quite short, considering the enormity of the allegations against him and also that things are going to come out after he was sent away. But I think in general, one thing that I think people need to start talking about now is this is the third high-profile sort of national treasure that's been either set down or in death has been condemned. So you've had Savile, you've had Clifford, and now you have Rolf Harris. And they've been sort of portrayed as sort of faceless evil. But I think this is time for a sort of more serious reflection and kind of a national psychotherapy, if that makes sense.
Particularly as it's clearly not just children, it's not just the paedophile element, it's everyone was a target, perhaps, as far as he's concerned.
Well, I think it's shocking what's coming out, and it shows the two sides of Rolf Harris. You know, everybody saw the nice side. And when I was growing up, I saw Rolf Harris, and I thought, wow, what a great artist. And, you know, you admired that, but now you see there's a darker side of that. And I think on the sentencing, you know, I have to say that we had somebody...
Because you were embarrassed.
I was, yeah. I think, you know, we had Mr. Justice Sweeney, who's a High Court judge, expert in criminal law, has given a sentence of 5 years and 9 months, looking at the totality of the sentence.
And what does that mean when you say totality?
Totality looks at all the counts in the indictment. There's 12 counts on the indictment, so rather than sentencing for each count, he has to look at the overall effect of the sentencing, taking into account the mitigating and the aggravating features, and taking also into account when the offences occurred. These offences occurred under old legislation,
right.
And therefore, you know, he has to sentence according to that, in line with the sentencing count.
But we think back to Max Clifford, and he was given consecutive terms, i.e. that it tallied up, which gave him a longer sentence.
It did, and I think on here there are consecutive sentences here as well,
right.
But he's then added them all up together and said 5 years and 9 months.
Let's go to another dramatic front page, which is now loaded with People, so the most evil man in the world, and it's a clip from this video that's been released. I mean, again, a very sort of professionally produced video.
Yeah, I mean, they have money now. ISIS has come into money, shall we say. They felt they had...
Where's that come from?
So there was a really good investigation, actually, in The Guardian a couple of weeks ago by Martin Shulov that traced about £30 million that fell into ISIS's hands from random funders across the region, but it literally was a windfall in one sum, and that's the explanation for their sudden march on Mosul.
State-sponsored or individuals?
State-sponsored in the Middle East is a kind of, it's a diffuse affair, because there are certain figures that are associated with the state, but aren't necessarily...
But in the state's name.
Exactly, and there's a lot of money sloshing around. So ISIS came into money. They have a very slick PR operation and social media operation, and this very slick video. But I have to say, I think in the West, he looks far more serious than people take him back home, where I'm from, and in the Arab world, and certainly on social media, he's been made a complete mockery of.
Yeah, well, there's more inside the Mail, page 13. Emerges from shadows with a spine-chilling call to arms.
Yeah,
but you're indicating that it's a bit more comic.
I think it is. I've got to say, I spoke to the Middle Eastern diplomats before I came on. So look, you know, what sort of countries feel on this?
Yeah.
And so look, he's a comic character out there. They don't take him seriously. He's a thug. You know, he calls himself a caliphate. But the fact is, you've got to be pious, person of wisdom, person of holiness and spirituality. But he's been killing innocent people. And there's nowhere in Islam which is kill innocent people.
That's a lot of intelligence agents didn't take Bin Laden seriously at first.
No, see, but Bin Laden was a different he was a different matter. Bin Laden was, I mean, for all, you know, his crimes, was considered a sheikh, was considered a man of piety, and he had sort of beatific air about
him. Which is why
him.
he was able to lead.
And I think it was the theological argument which you could play to, whereas over here there is none. But what I would say on this, it's the reason he's come to so prominence is because I would say the international community's failure to intervene in Syria. Because the longer that's gone on, that's why his group has now been able to establish itself in Syria and Iraq. So therefore I would say the international community failing to act in Syria by taking out certain action has allowed him to, and his group to grow.
But the hard fact is the caliphate as such, this sort of medieval Islamic state, has been established more or less across that border.
No, it hasn't.
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. The caliphate, as such, needs, I mean, for it to be established, it needs the buy-in of a huge swathe of the Muslim population. And this is a very limited mandate that he has. And even within his geography, he doesn't have the support of all.
You're right.
Yeah.
Also, I think if you look at Al-Azhar University, which is one of the most prominent Islamic institutions, and they've come out and said this man has got nothing to do with Islam. Qadawi, who was in Qatar and from Egypt, from the Brotherhood, has come out clearly and said nothing to do it. So people in the extreme form of the conservative Islam made it quite clear this man does not represent.
He is a fringe figure and is now on Twitter at Khalid al-Baghdadi. There's a parody account that's very funny about it.
Or some would say Big Daddy against Baghdadi.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Right, okay. Let's move to the Observer now, actually, on the latest on this Westminster story. We have this extraordinary picture of children farms going up and down the Dales of Yorkshire, but they've gone for the child whose father lost, or indeed even moved to the Home Office. Let's just move that up. 114 of them, which is an extraordinary number, isn't it?
I think it's shocking that files of that nature can be lost when you had a Conservative MP, Jacob Dickens, who actually took the documents and passed them over to the then Home Secretary and said this needs to be fully investigated.
It was Leon Britton.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's saying he passed them on to the relevant individuals to look at. But what we don't have is the clarity or the chronology as to who got what, when it was asked to, and who had the files.
Or what was in those
And what was in those files. And therefore, what the Prime Minister has asked now, the Permanent Secretary, is to fully investigate this. He's now said we need an independent legal expert to come in, probably a QC, to look at this. And I think the importance of that would be so that we know the facts. We don't know the full facts of this yet.
Yeah, but look at what? Is he just going to look at how the Home Office dealt with that a year ago, rather than looking at what happened in 1983 and really opening the whole thing up?
I would say you can't have one without the other. So I would say, firstly, you need to establish the facts as to who knew what, when they knew what, why did they do certain things. And I think if it was done by MPs, it would not have, the authority, because people say MPs looking at MPs like expenses. So having an independent legal investigation would give it the authority, and also what it would do is to show that nobody's above the law, and no stone's been.
And we've heard that from David Cameron and other matters recently. But give us an indication about Westminster and how this is being discussed, how serious people see it. I mean, it is getting a real sort of head of steam in terms of the media. Is the same happening in political circles?
Well, from what I hear and the people I speak to, everyone wants a full, independent, thorough investigation because nobody wants Parliament's credibility to be touched.
And it is across parties.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants Parliament's credibility to be touched, like it was with the expenses scandal.
Yeah.
Let's have a thorough investigation. Let's see who knew what, and those who did wrong should be brought to account no matter who they are.
Okay. World Cup drama now.